Hey guys, it's Marcus here, and welcome back to TalkSober.com. Today we're going to talk about something very important that you're going to hear in a lot of alcoholism recovery type philosophy, and that is, what is a dry drunk? What is a dry drunk? And we want to take a look at this because it's very important. Now, a lot of people look at this and they say, well, is a dry drunk someone who just wants to drink again? Well, what a dry drunk is it's someone who has only taken away the component of alcohol. That means nothing in their life has changed other than giving up drinking. Now, a lot of times we look at this and it gets confused, right? It gets confused with a term called wet brain. Now, the term wet brain refers to people that have the symptoms of being drunk even though they haven't drank. So we're not talking about that today. What we're talking about today is what is a dry drunk. Now, a dry drunk, as I mentioned, is someone who has just taken away the alcohol component. It's kind of like the idea of, if I could give up alcohol, then I would X, right? If I could give up alcohol, people will say, well, then I'd be more productive. Then I'd be healthier. Some people think they would make more money. And things like this. So what they're saying is that if I could give up alcohol, these things will change in my life. Now, while that might be true, what we want to look at is we want to look at the foundation of why people are alcoholics in the first place. Now, a lot of 12-step literature and a lot of recovery literature talks about drinking as a symptom. Drinking as a symptom of something bigger, right? Is drinking in your life something bigger? Is it a symptom of something else? Is it a symptom of perhaps abuse, trauma, bad thinking, or whatever? And we look at this, and a lot of 12-step programs and things like that will say, you know, there's this thing called stinkin' thinking, right? Stinkin' thinking. And we look at this and we say, okay, well, we have this idea of drinking as a symptom. We have this idea of stinking thinking, meaning we're thinking poorly. And we have drinking as piling up of something else. So if we just take drinking out of the equation, we might be a little more productive. Of course, we're going to be healthier. We might make more money because the drinking's out of the way and we're more productive and everything like that. But we want to look at the underlying issues, because a dry drunk is someone who still has the attitudes, feelings, and behaviors of an alcoholic. I see this all the time. There's people in recovery who have been in recovery for years, but they're miserable and they treat people poorly. Unfortunately, this is what's known as a dry drunk. They have not given up the attitudes, feelings, and behaviors that they had when they were drinking. Now, we're looking this, and if we follow along with what most literature says, if drinking is a symptom of something else, then we look at it and we say, well, drinking might be a symptom of something bigger. Drinking might be a symptom of what's making your life miserable. Now, in a lot of literature, you're also going to see what is known as the fourth dimension. Right? The fourth dimension is where they say, hey, look, you know, once you stop drinking and once your life changes and everything like that, you are going to get the fourth dimension of living, which is like a whole new life. It's like, if you were to look at it religiously, it'd be like being born again, right? Your life changes, your thoughts change, your behaviors change, your attitudes change, and everything like that. Now, this is known as someone who is recovered or in recovery, because they're like, okay, now my life is starting to change. Now, one of the things that I didn't realize when I was first starting to get sober, a lot of people don't know, but I had tried to get sober for about a year and a half before I actually went into rehab and started getting sober and everything like that. And while I was dealing with that year and a half, I felt like if I could just get rid of the drinking, then I'd be more productive, I'd be healthier, I'd make more money, I wouldn't be as depressed, and all these things. I thought that the drinking was the only problem that was stopping me from reaching the fourth dimension. But as it were, that wasn't the only problem. And what I found out was that every time I put the bottle down without fixing the underlying problem, which was my life as a whole, I found out that all I was doing was setting myself up for the next relapse. So I want to ask you a question. Are you setting up for the next relapse. Right? Because every time I stopped drinking, no matter how long it was, whether it was a day, a week, a month, or however long it was, right? I think my record was like 3 weeks or a month or something like that. And when I quit drinking, I was setting myself up instantly. The minute, probably even before I put the bottle down, I was setting myself instantly for a relapse. And that's why relapse is so common, because the thoughts, attitudes, and behaviors do not change. What needs to change here is a fundamental shift in life philosophy, because oftentimes we drink as a symptom of something bigger. We drink because we don't like our life. We drink because we feel like life is happening to us and we're just responding to whatever happens. We drink because we feel like we are getting the short end of the stick, or we feel like whatever, or we drink because of what happened in our past or what's happening right now. And we look at this and we say, well, these attitudes, behaviors, and feelings are setting us up for a relapse. And we look at this and we say, well, what is leading us to a relapse? And a lot of people say that an emotional relapse happens long before drinking. Now, what does this mean? We take a look at this, and I want to put all this together for you because I want you to understand what's going on. See, the problem with me for those 1.5 years that I couldn't get sober was the fact that I didn't understand what was going on, and it was eating me alive. I was like, why can't I just quit? What is the deal? Why do I keep going back to this like a freaking, moth to a flame or whatever it is? And we look at it and we say, well, a lot of it has to do with the fact that drinking is a symptom of something bigger, okay? We also have something to do with the fact that we were setting up for the next relapse, and the fact that I thought when I stopped drinking, all this stuff was going to start to get better. But what I didn't realize was that all along the way, I was a dry drunk. Why was I a dry drunk? Because my feelings, my emotions, and my behaviors did not change. The only thing that changed was taking away the alcohol. And what happens in life is if you are drinking as a symptom of something deeper, when those things start to creep in, it's very easy to go back to what worked in the first place. Drinking was a solution to a lot of your problems. Drinking was a solution to not being able to emotionally respond, not being able to deal with your stinking thinking or your poor thinking or your depressive thinking or whatever it is, not being able to deal with your life. Now, if you want to get to this fourth dimension, now when I first heard this in rehab, they said, you're going to get to the fourth dimension of living and things are going to be great. And I visioned this like Star Trek thing and they're going to beam me up and I'm going to be glowing and whatever. Right? The fourth dimension is just a way of life where you take responsibility for your actions, your lot in life. I, right now, am responsible for where I am. Where I am in life is the culmination of the decisions that I've made. Little decisions every day lead you down the path. Just like if you decide to drink today, you might say, well, it's only one. It's not going to hurt me. It's only one. It's not going to be that big deal. I got to have one at the wedding or whatever it is. You're going to look at this, and what happens is you start to change over time. And this is how things creep in. Now, the same thing happens with emotional relapse. When you have those negative feelings creeping in, you might have anger, you might have guilt, you might have resentment, you might have depression, grief, loss, and on we go. We might also have jealousy. Right? And all these things start to creep in, and if you don't deal with them the right way, what's going to happen is you are going to lead to an emotional relapse. An emotional relapse is reverting back into the negative emotions, looking at it saying, hey, look, my drinking is a symptom of all this negative stuff, so this negative stuff needs to change. Now, the best way to change this is by changing your life philosophy, changing the underlying belief that governs your life. Now, you might not know it right now because you might not have thought about it, but everyone has a life philosophy. We'll write that down. Life philosophy. and we look at our life philosophy, and even if you haven't thought about it up until now, you got to look at what is governing your life. And I think I forgot the why there, right? What's governing your life? Is it feeling like you're a victim of all the things that happen to you? Is it feeling like you are getting the short end of the stick? Is it anger because everyone else is stupid or wrong or whatever? Are you having these things? Are you angry, feeling guilty, resentment, depression, grief, loss, or jealousy in your life? If you are, you want to take a look at your life philosophy and say, what do I believe about life right now? Do I believe it's hopeless or hopeful? Do I believe it's down or up? Do I believe it's positive or negative? And when we start to change our life philosophy, everything starts to change, and we get into this fourth dimension that we're talking about. But what I want you to watch out for is emotional relapse, and I want you to look at drinking as a symptom of something bigger. This is why in so much literature they say, you know, you got to do these steps, or you got to work on yourself, or you got to take care of yourself, or, you know, go to therapy or whatever it is, because of the fact that a lot of people believe that it is in fact a symptom of something bigger. Now we want to look at this because we don't want to end up a dry drunk. A dry drunk, even if he stays sober his entire life, what's the point? Right? If I'm negative my entire life, if I'm putting bad things out there and not living a happy, fulfilled, enjoyable life, right? Not happy like an idiot walking around smiling all the time, but just content in your daily life, changing your life philosophy. If I'm not getting that, then what's the point, right? So what we want to talk about is how to change your life philosophy. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to, one, subscribe to this channel. We got some more videos that are going to talk about life philosophy. Then I want you to go over to talksober.com/life. That's talksober.com/life. Check out that page. We got some videos on how to understand how to make a new life philosophy. We also have some worksheets and stuff like that that you can go through so that you don't fall into the trap of being a dry drunk. Because if you're a dry drunk, you've already relapsed in your mind by changing your beliefs, or rather keeping the same beliefs, keeping the same feelings, and keeping the same behaviors. Change can happen, and it can happen fast, but it starts with changing each individual thing. The scientists say that we usually have about 40,000 thoughts in our brain every day. What I want you to do is I want you to start to notice what you're thinking about all the time. And I want you to notice it not like these thoughts are coming at you and you have to embody them, but notice it as a watcher, as an observer, saying, wow, Marcus sure does think about drinking a lot. Wow, Marcus sure does think about how things should be better. One of the most important things that keeps me sober is letting go of my bullshit ideas of how life should be. And once you start to realize that, you stop being a dry drunk and you start to realize life is what it is. I need to change my thinking, get out of emotional relapse. I need to realize when these things come in, because feelings are like barometers, right? We don't have to trust every single feeling. We just listen and say, well, that might be useful, that might not be useful. I found out after years of studying this stuff that dealing with guilt wasn't a helpful emotion if I didn't change anything. Being guilty and feeling guilty was actually my way of feeling better without being better. And this whole thing, not being a dry drunk, is about being better. We're going to talk to you in upcoming videos about how you can be better, how you can learn, how you can understand, how you can stop being a dry drunk, stop setting yourself up for the next relapse, and dive into the fourth dimension of living where you take responsibility, you take charge, and you start to understand what's going on in your life, in your emotions, in your mind, and your thoughts. And we're going to start to understand this together. So I'd like to thank you for watching this video. I want you to go over to talksober.com/life, get the little printouts about relapse and the printouts about life philosophy and everything like that at talksober.com/life. Subscribe to my channel and watch for the next video, and keep on guard. If you keep on guard and you start to understand that feelings and thoughts don't just happen to you, they are a result of what you're putting into your mind and what you're dwelling on. And you have these patterns, and we're going to start to change them, and we're going to get to that fourth dimension of living and say life can be different. If you would have told me 3 years ago that my life would look the way it does now, mentally, I would have never believed you because I thought I couldn't change my thoughts. But I learned that you can change your thoughts little by little by understanding what's going on. Thanks again for watching this video. Subscribe to my channel and click that little bell for more videos. Then go over to talksober.com/life, get our worksheets and everything, and let's stay sober together one day at a time. Thanks again for watching. Marcus here from talksober.com.